Harbor Beach, when we did the study, we used 2nd grade through 8th grade students. During the course of that study, we also added some 9th grade students, and since then, and that was a year and a half ago, so this past school year, the 08-09 school year, Harbor Beach was so impressed with, the administration was so impressed with the data that we got from the study, and with the improvement in academic scores that the students were experiencing. They purchased more BrainWare accounts, and they primarily this year gave it to junior high and high school students. And we did some high school students a year and a half ago too, also towards the end of the year. And we've been very pleased with what we've seen. In fact, that first spring, we had a student, high-performing student in the district, and he had taken his ACTs twice and had scored in the low to mid-30s on all of his scores except for his reading score, which the first time was a 22 and second time was a 21. And so the superintendent called me in and said, you know, we've got this kid and we can't figure out where we have failed him. And that's the impression, and that is the attitude that Harbor Beach has towards all of their kids. If they're not performing where they should be, then what have we done that has failed them? What can we do to correct our errors, not their errors? Because it's our fault that they're not performing where they should be. He said, do you think BrainWare will do some good? I said, you know what? I don't know. I said, I've not seen it with high school kids, and he was really our first older, he was 17-year-old using it. So we did a pre and post test on him. We gave him BrainWare. He did it on his own. It was during the last 2 weeks of school, so he had to come into school. He agreed to come into school 4 days a week for the next 10 weeks or until he got it done after school was out, because they don't have high-speed internet at their home. And he did, and when he got done, he called me, and I came in and we post-tested him, and I was really disappointed with the results, because the results were practically identical. There was no statistical change in the pre and post testing. And I looked at Ron and I said, you know, Ron, I don't think BrainWare worked with this kid. So he went off and took his ACT test for the 3rd time, and his score in reading went from 21 to 30. And that's just unheard of. And it was a 9-point gain, and the only thing that happened in there was BrainWare. And so we sat down and said, what's happening? And we took even a deeper look, I think, at what BrainWare claims will happen and what they do. And on the program, you've got the skill button that tells you these are the skills it works on. And Sarah had said, well, you know, it works not just in isolation, but at integrating skills. And I think that what happened with this student was his cognitive skills were all there, and they were all compartmentalized, just like you guys have said we teach in compartments. And what BrainWare did for this kid was they took them and blended them together so that they could communicate to each other and learned how to communicate. And I will tell you that the same thing happened this year, because Harbor Beach uses the ACT test as one of the measures for determining class rank. And they use a formula, I don't know what it is, and it's not really relevant. But their valedictorian this year scored in the mid to high 30s, in the mid 30s on her ACT scores, except for in the reading area. And so they gave her BrainWare. And she went from a 28 to a 34 when she retook her ACT test, which again is a 6-point gain, and that's just something you don't really see in ACTs very often. And so we're fully, we're 100% believers that not only will it boost individual cognitive skills, but it takes those kids that are already smart and makes it so that their brain just communicates so much more efficiently. I mean, that's the only assumption that conclusion we can come down to.